The greatest gift for your brother's wedding, my mother's voice cut like polished glass, is if you disappear from our family forever. The room went silent. My brother smirked, my father adjusted his tie like nothing had just been said, and the chandelier above flickered as if even the light itself cringed at their words. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I swallowed hard, letting their sentence echo in my chest like a death bell. Hi everyone, my name is Averly, I'm 29 years old, and I've always wondered, how does a family decide you're disposable? How do people you once trusted the most carve you out like a tumor, then pretend it's mercy? That night, I realized their love had never been mine to keep. It had always been conditional, fragile, and breakable. I looked at my mother's face. Perfect makeup, lips curled in satisfaction. My father's silence was worse, because silence is an accomplice. My brother, the golden groom, leaned back in his chair with the smug grin of a man who'd just watched his rival fall. My hands shook under the table, but my voice didn't betray me. Is that all? I asked. Calm. Too calm. Nobody answered. They didn't need to. So I rose. I didn't beg. Didn't cry. I packed my things, took the keys from the counter, and walked out. The door closed behind me like a final punctuation mark, sharp and absolute. The air outside was cold, night pressing against my skin like iron. But inside me something warmer stirred, a quiet, dangerous fire. They thought they had erased me. They thought humiliation would keep me small. But betrayal doesn't always shatter a woman. Sometimes, it chisels her into something sharper. And that was the moment I knew, if they wanted me gone, I'd give them their wish. But not before I rewrote the story of who truly disappears. The next morning the plan began. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds of my small apartment, slicing across the floor like golden bars. For the first time in years I didn't feel trapped behind them. I brewed coffee in silence, the steam curling like ghosts of old memories. Every sip steadied me, sharpened me. I wasn't broken. I was awake. That's when I opened the drawer where the papers sat. The joint ownership deed, the account access forms, the codes my father once trusted me with because I was the responsible one. The same responsibility they'd mocked me for last night, as if being steady made me dull. They had forgotten one truth. When you cast out the caretaker, you leave her holding the keys to everything. I logged in. My fingers moved with eerie calm across the keyboard. Confirm. Transfer. By noon, the joint account was frozen. $78,000 locked in place. No more endless spending on floral centerpieces and champagne fountains for a wedding that excluded me. I pulled the apartment deed from its folder, the one my parents had once insisted be in my name because, Averly, you're the reliable child. They had no idea those signatures would one day become my weapon. By evening I had called the agent. The apartment, the very place my family paraded as their safety net, was listed. My phone buzzed as I waited for the papers to finalize. My mother's name lit up the screen. I let it ring. Once, twice, 12 times. Finally, a message. Your little stunt means nothing. You're still nothing. Don't embarrass yourself further. I stared at it for a long time, a bitter smile curving my lips. If words could bruise, I'd be black and blue. But bruises fade. Paperwork doesn't. I pressed the phone face down on the table. Outside, the city thrummed with life, indifferent to my storm. But inside me, silence built like a drumbeat. I didn't vanish when they told me to. I shifted into something they couldn't predict. And tomorrow, they'd feel it. The morning after, I woke not to peace but to chaos. 35 missed calls. 10 frantic voicemails. My brother's voice, usually dripping with arrogance, now cracked and uneven. Averly, what the hell did you do? Mom's freaking out. Dad's calling the bank. They said the account is frozen? Fix it, no. This isn't funny. Funny. That word lodged in my chest. For years I had been their unfunny punchline. The invisible sibling, the quiet servant, the one they could erase with a sentence. Now they were the ones gasping for air, scrambling in panic. I slid the phone into my pocket and walked out. The city morning was loud, horns blaring, vendors shouting, sunlight bouncing off glass towers. But all I heard was the rhythm of my own footsteps. Steady. Decisive. At the bank, the manager handed me the confirmation papers. The freeze was official. Legally airtight. I felt the weight of ink and law settle in my hands like armor. By noon the agent called. The apartment has serious buyers. Given the location, it'll move fast. I nodded, a quiet hum escaping my throat. Fast. That word tasted good. On my way back, I ducked into a cafe, sat by the window and stirred my coffee until it went cold. Across the glass, I saw families laughing, siblings leaning on each other, mothers adjusting their children's collars. It stung like pressing salt into an open wound. That life had never been mine. Maybe it never would. But I had something else now. Power. When I finally checked my phone again, a new message blinked from my mother. Short. Return what you stole. Or don't bother showing your face at the wedding. I laughed under my breath, the sound bitter enough to curdle milk. As if I'd ever been welcome there to begin with. I typed one line back, the first words I'd given her since that night. I won't be showing my face. But my absence will cost you. I hit send. My reflection in the cafe window looked back at me, familiar yet stranger, fiercer. Tomorrow was rehearsal dinner. And I already knew how I'd ruin it without even stepping inside. The rehearsal dinner was held at one of those glittering downtown hotels. The kind with glass chandeliers, marble floors, and servers who floated like shadows in crisp uniforms. My family loved places like this, where appearances did the heavy lifting, where money spoke louder than sincerity. I didn't go. I didn't need to. But I made sure I was present. In the cracks, in the silence, in the way the evening unraveled. By late afternoon, the first call came. The florist panicked. Mrs. Carraway, the payment for your arrangements declined. We can't release the shipment without funds. Then the caterer. We're sorry, but the account we had on file isn't valid anymore. If payment isn't resolved by tonight, service will be cancelled. And then the hotel itself. Sir, your sweet balance is overdue. Without immediate settlement, we cannot proceed with the ballroom setup. One after another, the pillars of their perfect little empire crumbled, and I wasn't even in the room to watch. Instead, I was at a quiet bookstore cafe 2 blocks away, sipping tea, the glow of my phone lighting up every few minutes with another message. My brother's fiancé even tried calling me. I almost answered. Almost. But I let it ring until her voice dissolved into the ether. At 7 sharp, the first photo came through, sent by a mutual cousin who didn't know I was behind it all. Guests standing awkwardly in the lobby, trays of food being wheeled back into the kitchen, my mother's face pale and tight as she argued with the staff. And my father who had always chosen silence over me, was now red-faced, barking into his phone, powerless. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of years pressing off my shoulders. I didn't smile. This wasn't joy, it was something heavier, something sharper. Justice maybe. Or the beginning of it. Another message. This one from my brother. You're destroying everything. You think this makes you stronger? It just proves why no one wanted you here. For a moment the words stung. Then like a storm cloud moving past, they cleared. Because I realized something. Their cruelty was no longer my cage. It was their curse. And tonight, in their glittering hotel with no food, no flowers, and no way out, the cracks were finally showing. Tomorrow was the wedding day. And tomorrow would be the fall. The morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. The city outside was hushed, heavy with that eerie stillness before chaos breaks. I didn't dress up, didn't rush. Instead, I made coffee, slow and deliberate, the aroma rising like smoke before battle. By 8 o'clock, my phone was already vibrating. 30 notifications, then 40. The storm had begun. The caterer had pulled out completely. The florist refused to deliver. The hotel locked the ballroom doors until payment cleared. And every vendor in town had heard whispers. The Carraways don't pay their bills. I sat at my kitchen table, reading each frantic message like chapters of a book I'd already memorized. Averly, please. Just fix this. I'll do anything. That one was from my brother's fiancée. The golden girl who once looked at me like I was gum stuck to her designer heel. You're humiliating us. People are talking. You'll regret this. My mother, always more venom than blood. And then finally my father. We know it was you. Whatever satisfaction you're getting, it won't last. Families survive storms. Outcasts don't. I stared at his words. My thumb hovered over the screen. And then I did something that startled even me. I laughed. Not a bitter laugh this time, but a full, guttural laugh that filled the empty room. Because for once, their storm wasn't mine to weather. It was theirs. Entirely theirs. By noon, a cousin sent me a photo. The bride stood outside the hotel in her gown, veil clutched in her fists, her face streaked with tears as guests whispered behind her. My brother's jaw was clenched so tight it looked carved from stone. My parents flanked him, both frantic, both hollow. I saved the photo. Not to gloat, but as proof. Proof that I had never been the weak one. Proof that their dismissal had forged me into something unshakable. Still, as the days stretched, a question gnawed at me. Was this enough? To watch their perfect facade collapse under its own weight? Or was there more? One final note to seal the story they wrote me out of? That night, as the ruined wedding dissolved into silence, I opened my laptop. The apartment sale papers were waiting for my signature. With one click, everything they thought was theirs would be gone. I pressed my finger against the trackpad. Hovered. Paused. Because tomorrow my revenge wouldn't just be financial. It would be unforgettable. The next morning, sunlight spilled across my desk as the contract blinked on the screen. The apartment sale. My signature was the only thing left standing between them and complete ruin. I let the cursor hover, savoring the silence. It wasn't hesitation, it was ritual. A pause before the final chord. Click. Signed. Click. Gone. By noon, the agent confirmed the sale. Funds rerouted. The Caraway safety net had vanished in a puff of legal smoke, and I didn't even need to step foot in a courtroom. But I wasn't finished. Because revenge isn't just about destruction. It's about exposure. And I had receipts, literal ones. Copies of every bank statement showing how they funneled family money into my brother's wedding while neglecting debts, ignoring promises, cutting me out. Years of loans taken in my name to protect their reputation, every check signed without a thank you. I compiled them into a neat folder, attached them to an email, and typed a subject line that felt like poetry. The truth you won't hear at the wedding. One click. Sent to every guest who had attended, every relative, every colleague my parents had boasted to for years. Within minutes, replies started pouring in. Pity. Bigger. Whispers now had names, evidence, undeniable weight. My phone buzzed relentlessly. My mother first. How dare you? Do you know what you've done? Then my brother, you've ruined us. I hope you're proud. And finally my father. No message. Just a missed call. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd already answered in the loudest way possible. That evening I walked past the hotel where the wedding should have been. The grand doors stood closed, the lights dim. Only a few wilted petals littered the pavement, reminders of what never bloomed. And for the first time in years I felt no weight on my chest. No craving for their approval. Just air. But as I walked away, a single thought followed me like a shadow. They will come to my door. Because people who lose everything don't vanish quietly. They cling. They beg. They break. And I knew, tomorrow the knock would come. The knock came at dusk. 3 sharp raps, not polite, not hesitant, demanding. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the kettle hissing low on the stove. For a moment I let the sound of boiling water drown them out. Then came my mother's voice muffled through the wood. Averly, open this door. We are still your family. Still your family. The words nearly made me laugh. Another knock, harder. My brother this time. Enough with the games. You've made your point. Fix this, now. I didn't move. I let them twist in their own desperation, their voices rising, blending with the city outside. Finally I opened the door. They stood there, my mother's lipstick smudged, her hair no longer perfect. My father's shoulders slumped, the tie around his neck loosened. My brother in a wrinkled shirt, fury pulsing behind his eyes. The Golden family dulled. What do you want? I asked, my tone flat, unshaken. My father's voice cracked. You've taken everything. We're ruined. Do you understand? People are talking. We can't even, he trailed off, words collapsing under their own weight. Then maybe, I said quietly, you shouldn't have asked me to disappear. The silence that followed was heavy, thick, like wet wool draped across our shoulders. For once they had no quick retort, no venom. Just the hollow shell of entitlement stripped bare. Finally my mother whispered, almost too softly to hear. Why? We're your blood. I leaned against the doorframe, my eyes steady on hers. Blood doesn't excuse betrayal. You didn't lose a daughter. You threw one away. I just made sure you felt the loss. My brother cursed under his breath, but even he didn't push further. Their pride was gone, and with it their grip on me. I stepped back, hand on the door. Leave. This chapter doesn't belong to you anymore. And before they could speak again, I closed it. Firm, final, the lock clicking into place like a seal on a tomb. Inside, the kettle had gone silent. Only the faint hum of the city remained. I exhaled, realizing my chest was light, my hands steady. They wanted me erased. But instead I had erased their illusion. Tomorrow I would begin again. Not out of spite, but out of freedom. And that was the true revenge. The morning after they came to my door, I woke in silence. Not the suffocating silence of being ignored, but a clean, new silence, like freshly fallen snow. I made coffee, carried it to the balcony, and let the city hum below me. For the first time, the sound didn't feel like a world I was locked out of. It felt like a world I could finally step into, on my own terms. The apartment sale funds sat safe in my account. Not as revenge money, but as seed money. The start of a life unburdened by their weight. I opened my laptop, drafted plans for my own business, something small but mine. Every keystroke felt like stitching a wound closed. Meanwhile, words spread. I didn't have to check. The texts, the whispers, the uninvited updates poured in. Guests who once idolized my parents now traded pitying looks. The perfect Caraway family was no longer untouchable. Their empire of appearances had collapsed into rubble. And the sweetest part? I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to gloat. I simply stepped aside and let truth do its work. One evening, I passed by the hotel again. The grand chandelier was dark, the lobby nearly empty. My reflection caught in the glass, and for the first time I didn't see the girl they called disposable. I saw a woman who had walked away, and carried her own light. Later, as I packed the last box in my new place, a single thought whispered through me. They wanted me gone. And now I am. But not erased. Reborn. My family's reputation was ashes. Their son's wedding would forever be remembered not for vows or music, but for absence. For collapse. For the day their castaway daughter held the pen to their story. Me. I wasn't bitter. I was free. Because the truest revenge isn't fire or fury. It's peace. A peace they'll never touch. A peace I built with my own hands. The night they told me to disappear was the night I stopped belonging to them. And the day I closed the door was the day I finally opened my own.